Hey there, Mission. I'm Tim Brown from Rick Brown Family Funeral Home, and I want to invite you to join me on Commerce Conversation, the business, community, and innovation here in Mission, Texas, the official podcast of the Greater Mission Chamber of Commerce. You know, each episode we're bringing you exclusive interviews with local business leaders, entrepreneurs, and change makers who are living right here in the Rio Grande Valley doing business here in Mission. They're driving innovation in our community. We will dive deep into the issues that matter to you, the business growth to community events and everything that comes in between. You can catch this podcast on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts. Make sure to subscribe, never miss an episode. If you miss one episode, you miss a lot, so don't miss an episode. We're excited to share the latest in business and community news with you. We'll see you on the Commerce Conversation. Welcome again to Commerce Conversation, business, community, and innovation, where we talk about businesses in the city of Mission and how our community can support you and what innovative ways we at the Greater Mission Chamber of Commerce can help grow your business and raise awareness about your organization. I'm your host, Tim Brown from Rick Brown Family Funeral Home, and today we will learn more about Bert Ogden and Fiesta Auto Group's business operations and community initiatives. You know, I want to talk a little bit about our sponsors that are coming up for the Buenas Tardes Luncheon and for Mission Day in Austin. You know, we have a lot of things going on, and we couldn't do it without our sponsors. And so we want to thank you to J&S Construction, the City of Mission, and always to the Mission EDC. Later in today's program, we're going to be learning more about Waterford Gardens. It's an assisted living facility, and they have so much to offer. We'll learn more about that in just a little bit. I just want to thank you all for tuning in today. Whether you're a chamber member or not, we don't really care. We just want you to tune in, and we're glad to have you as a new listener. So today I'm joined by my good friend. We've been good friends for about 10 minutes now, but my good friend Natasha Del Barrio. She's the Bert Ogden and Fiesta Auto Group Chief Executive Officer. Natasha, that sounds pretty important there. That's a long title there. Bert Ogden and Fiesta Auto Group Chief Executive Officer. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you, Tim.
I have no doubt that you're busy, so I'm grateful for you making the time. So today's episode is going to be all about Bert Ogden and Fiesta Auto Group. We'll be exploring your community engagement that y'all do, the support for activities happening in our local dealership. But I want to hear from you. All right, so the first question is the scary question for everybody. Who or what inspired you to become part of the Bert Ogden team?
Oh, that's a super easy one. Definitely not scary for me.
All right.
So I was 15 years old, sophomore in high school. I was working at a Pizza Hut, and I thought I had arrived because I was making $2.50 an hour plus terrible tips. And my uncle, Bill Overstreet, who at the time was the general manager of the Mission Chevrolet store here on Bryan Road, he called me and he said, hey, there's a woman named Marcia Green. She's the marketing director. She needs an assistant. I think you would be a great fit for this. And mind you, it's been my summers babysitting for him,
right.
Cleaning the pool, bathing the dogs, feeding the birds, whatever random thing he needed done. So he had a degree of exposure to domesticated work ethic, I guess. And I said, okay, yeah, that sounds great. And he said, well, here's what the job entails. Here's who you need to talk to. And the one thing I'm going to tell you is I'm not going to help you with this. You've got to do this on your own. And I said, okay, fair enough. What's the phone number? And he said, I told you, you have to do this on your own. And he hung up on me.
All the way from the phone number forward, huh?
Yeah, he hung up on me. And then I had to bust out the yellow pages, right? Because this was before Google. I don't know how, because I'm only 27 years old, but I had to bust out the yellow pages and look up the phone number for Bert Ogden Chevrolet and hunt Marcia down like a borderline stalker before I got that job. But that's a really easy one. He's the one that got me into it and very quickly fell in love with it.
Okay, so you were a sophomore in high school when you first started with the Bert Ogden Group.
Correct.
Okay, so that company was probably significantly smaller at that time than it is now, because the growth that we've seen over the past few years has been significant.
As I remember it, there were 8 dealerships at the time.
How many dealerships are there today?
Well, today there's 24 dealerships.
Okay.
In 60 days, we might have another conversation, but
24 today.
24 today, yes.
3 times the growth you've seen since you've been there. That's amazing, Natasha.
Yep.
Okay, so obviously customer satisfaction is important in the car buying process. People have a choice, so you have to keep customer service going. So what strategies does Bert Ogden Group take to ensure that customer satisfaction during the car buying process is a positive experience for people?
Well, first I want to say you're absolutely right, because the way that vehicles are priced today, really the only differentiation there is amongst car dealerships is what the customer's experience is, how we treat people. And so having said that, I don't think it's rocket science. I think that it's just about being good to people and treating people right, giving them a good experience, being honest, being fair, being transparent, and being authentic.
You know, my dad used to always tell me, son, we're not in the funeral business, we're in the people business. And that goes in any industry, if you can get people to understand, Bert Ogden's not in the car business, they're in the people business. Take care of the people, the cars will come. That's kind of what I hear you saying, is the same thing my dad would tell me.
And not only that, and if I were to give a strategy, because again, I just really don't think it's rocket science, you just have to take care of people. But if I were to give a strategy, I would say, we've got the best of all worlds. We're big enough to financially leverage economies of scale and have name recognition, brand recognition, but by being family owned and operated, we don't have all the bureaucracy that prevents us from making decisions and being agile. And so all of that comes together to make for an atmosphere where we can be very familial in the way that we treat our team members. And so I think that a big part of the strategy is treating your team members like family, because how we treat them is how they're going to treat our customers.
So you're big enough to work all the deals with the big companies, but you're small enough to treat them like family.
That's exactly right.
Fantastic. So you have 23, 24 dealerships, you said. How does your inventory selection reflect the needs of the local community?
Well, to the extent that we've got the selection, I mean, it's 100% customer demand. It's really a numbers game when you look at it. You know, how many customers are coming in asking for what? That's obviously what we hope to stock. Sometimes it doesn't go exactly like that. You don't always get your wish list based on constraints with the OEMs or, recently we've ended up with some vehicles we're not so sure about just because they're new products for some of the OEMs. So, sometimes there's things like that take it outside of customer demand, but we monitor each model line very closely to see how many of each model line we've sold, and we're very mechanical and mathematic about the existing product lines and what we're going to carry. So really the only place that subjectivity comes into place is when you're making a bet on a new model line or you have constraints that you just can't get what you need.
Well, if you need your local funeral director to demo a Hummer for a few days, and you just tell me, I'll be happy to help you out, okay?
Will you unveil it too?
Of course, I'll unwrap it, whatever we have to do. Okay. That'd be fun. All right, what measures do you take to maintain competitive pricing while ensuring quality service? And you indicated earlier that this market now is different than when you started. I'm sure the internet has changed a lot of that.
Hugely.
So tell me, what does Bert Ogden do? And I always say Bert Ogden, but obviously Fiesta Auto Group as well.
So we combine them together to just refer to them as the Bert Ogden Auto Group. Is their
That's
technical
the official
corporate
name.
DBA? Yes.
All right. So what does the Bert Ogden Auto Group do to maintain competitive pricing while ensuring quality service?
So the competitive pricing part of it is really simple. We've got a market-based pricing approach, and that's really dictated by supply and demand, right? It's an economic decision. So every single vehicle is priced according to what market demand is, what day supply is, so on and so forth. Where the differentiating factor comes back to that customer experience again. And most people wouldn't believe this. And I don't know if I should be sharing trade secrets right now, but the truth of the matter is we don't actually make very much money at all on selling cars.
Right.
So differentiating through price isn't really a thing because it's market-based pricing, which is another reason why it's so critical to take care of your customer and treat them like family. Make sure they have an amazing experience so they always want to come back, because it is your second and third visit and your visits into the service department where we're really able to generate our profitability to continue moving forward.
Almost have to work off volume versus making the money off one sale.
Oh, absolutely.
Well, here's the part that I'm excited about. All right, so that was all great car dealership and car business, but I want to talk about the community programs that Bert Ogden does. This is amazing. You and I had a little conversation before we started this. Bert Ogden have such an influence here in the Rio Grande Valley with so many things that they sponsor, and the impact. I don't know that everyone understands the full impact, but let me just read the question to you. Can you highlight specific community programs or initiatives that Bert Ogden Auto Group supports? And I'll just kind of give you my personal antidote. I bought a little locker over at the Bob and Janet Vackar Stadium, and I did that after seeing that Bert Ogden invested so heavily into that place. And I thought, you know what, I want to be part of this too. I don't want to look back in 20 years and think, man, I could have sponsored something for the university and I didn't. And so that inspired me. But tell me a little about some of the stuff that Bert Ogden does and the community programs and initiatives that are important to your auto group.
Wow, there's so many.
I'm
Let
sure
me
there
first say, Tim, this is my favorite part of my job. I love the business. I love the analytics. But there is great joy from being able to be in a position where you can carry influence into giving back to the community and contributing. And oftentimes for us, that's financial. A lot of times it's manpower, and sometimes it's helping an animal shelter market their events, online or on our billboards. But that is truly the most joyous part of my job, and I'm so lucky to work for Bob and Janet Vackar, because philanthropy is not a marketing ploy for them.
Right.
It's not a box to check off to make sure that we get the right tax deduction. It is a core part of who they are as individuals. And certainly as Bob and Janet have gotten just a little bit older, Bob has repeatedly said, I can't take this with me when I die. And obviously he's going to care well for his family, but he is dedicated to giving back as much as he possibly can these, later years in life.
That's fantastic.
So I think that's just such a beautiful thing. I think it's such an inspiration. And I don't even know where to start on the topic of community give back. We've tried to list that all out for a project we were working on, and we got about 5 pages deep, and we were still going, and we thought, okay, at what point do we stop listing things out? But obviously everybody knows the University of Texas is a huge part of our world, our lives, our partnership. We see so much growth for our Rio Grande Valley community that comes out of having a top tier university in our area, a university who can establish a medical school that has never existed here and keep students in the valley, naming a college, and not because now it bears Robert Vackar's name, but because the naming of a college creates so many more opportunities for the college to attract higher caliber faculty and staff and students even, and all of this has long-term contributions to our community. Football is a ton of fun, right? We're super excited about Division I football, and I already have my outfit picked out for the August 30th, 2025 football game.
Got your V's up,
yes,
huh?
and my V's up. It's not hard when it's an orange football shirt and a baseball cap, right? But so we're super excited about that. But again, not just because it's football, because bringing a Division I football team to the Rio Grande Valley will forever change the landscape. It will change what's available entertainment-wise. It will change the ability of many businesses, not just ours, to attract people down here to work that have an amazing place to send their kids to school and more entertainment options. It encourages students and future business leaders to stay here in this area. And then there's the just very obvious, which is education. And we talked a little bit about mine and the Vackars' relationship with education. And another educational cause that they've really gotten behind is establishing the only fully accredited dual enrollment Christian high school in the Upper Valley.
Okay.
So they have invested in Covenant Christian Academy, and they've established the Janet Vackar Distinguished Leadership Academy.
Wow.
So CCA, Covenant Christian Academy, went up to the 8th grade, and after this investment, they were able to build on their already existing dream to expand to a high school. And so that high school has been in operation for 3 years now. So they have freshmen, sophomores, juniors, and then next year they'll add the senior
First graduating class, huh?
Yes.
How
super,
exciting.
Super exciting.
I'm sure Mr. G is excited about that.
Mr. G, we love Mr. G. Mr. G is a partner in life and just a great supporter of our business and our team members and Christian education. He's just a wonderful, wonderful man.
So one time I was at an event, and Mr. Vackar was talking a little bit about the number of people that are employees of the Bert Ogden Group that have a bachelor's degree from UTRGV. And so I don't remember the exact number.
126. We counted it yesterday.
Well, so there's 126. That's amazing.
It's huge. And so our overall population is about 1,200 employees. And so for 126 of those to be college educated is really very amazing for our industry, because this is not an industry. It's heavily regulated, right? Particularly on the finance end of things. But this is not like being an engineer or an architect or a doctor or a lawyer, where you just absolutely cannot do it unless you have that degree. Now, we love having people with degrees, and there's people with or without degrees can do so many amazing things. But one thing that you know when you have somebody who has their college degree is that this is someone who can go the distance, who can take a project through to completion, who is invested in their own betterment and their own success. And there are qualities that come along with that are obviously beneficial to your workforce. But it's because a college degree has not been a requirement for this type of an industry, and quite honestly, because this industry of the 70s and 80s did not have the best reputation for being a highly polished professional atmosphere, to have more than 10% of all of your team members being college educated really is pretty amazing.
And he indicated how they're still supporting people that are going to school, and the investment they made in people, just like they made in you when you were a teenager, is pretty amazing to hear. So, we talked a little bit about the community programs and initiatives. There is something, I'll share a quick story with you. I'm a funeral director, obviously. And during COVID, a police officer passed away here in Mission. And his daughter's birthday was the day of the funeral.
I remember.
And she was young. I don't remember exact age, but I want to think under 10. And so we took her in our limo to Sherry and 83 so that we could see the big sign. And I've never seen eyes light up like that when her picture came up that said happy birthday to her. And, we talk a lot about the investment in UTRGV. We talk about the investment. But even the small things like that makes such a huge difference in people's opinion. That's a day that is a sorrowful day, but she will remember that sign for the rest of her life.
And those are small things, Tim, that give us so much joy. And this is a community that, the Rio Grande Valley is a community that has loved on Bert Ogden as much as Bert Ogden has loved on them. And there's so many things that we are able to do that are of little to no cost to us, just because of resources like a 3-sided electronic billboard or various advertising platforms that we have. And so that's especially something that Janet loves doing. She loves knowing what's going on at the elementary schools and the high schools and teams that have gone off to state, and the Espiricueta family and things like that, to be able to just make those small gestures of recognition that mean so much to the people who get to see them.
Well, you tell her we all said thank you.
I sure.
All right. I've got one more question for you.
Okay.
And this one, you're going to have to dig deep and tell us lots of secrets, all right?
Uh-oh.
All right. The future plans for community engagement. Is there any future plan that you're excited about more than any other? Anything in the horizon that you see Bert Ogden's about to be involved with that you are excited about?
Well, I already planned my outfit for football next year, so I think I'm pretty excited about that. So many of our causes are long enduring causes like Easter Seals and Make-A-Wish and various education scholarship programs. And there are so many causes that we're involved in. The animal shelter is another big one for us. That I can't say there's particularly a new cause that we have not gone into. but I'm really excited about seeing the growth and the evolution of the causes that haven't quite come to fruition,
Right.
particularly items at the college. There's a renovation coming for the business school,
Okay.
like we talked about. And if you haven't seen the actual plans of what's going to happen for football at UTRGV, it is absolutely over the top.
Yeah.
Seeing that first graduating class come out of CCA and what the future can look like for all of that, those are the things that are really exciting, the things we haven't seen come to fruition. But man, Tim, we're involved in so many things. I don't know if there's anything we haven't quite touched yet.
Well, that's good, and I'm very grateful for Bert Ogden. I've shared that with you just because the Rio Grande Valley, the atmosphere has changed because of the investment that they've made in the valley, and so I'm grateful for that. But what a great, insightful conversation that we got to have with you today, Natasha.
I want to go back to something, Tim,
Yes.
before we wrap up, which is. You talked about the impact that we have in the valley, and obviously we're a car dealer, and it's our job to sell cars and service cars and take care of customers, and we want to do that. We want to do that in a big way and do it better than everybody else. And quite frankly, I think that we do. A number of our dealerships are ranked top in the nation.
Right.
In fact, our Buick GMC store in Edinburgh was #1 in the state last month.
Congratulations.
Thank you so much. These guys win national awards year after year. They do a great job, and it's that amazing job that they do that allows us to do all of these other things. But looking at what the legacy of these dealerships would be, Bob and Janet have been so incredibly humble to continue to honor her father's name through, at the point that her parents were deceased, I believe that it was only 3 or 4 dealerships.
Okay.
And 20 dealerships later, they've not put their name on a single dealership.
Right.
It's still Bert Ogden. So they're very committed and loyal to honoring his legacy. And I thought, what's their legacy going to be when they're gone? And 2 generations from now, the Bert Ogden name will still exist as car dealerships, but people's memories are short.
Right.
And will people remember all that Bob and Janet did for the auto industry and for the Rio Grande Valley? And that's a big part of why stepping into philanthropy, and I've got a personal philosophy that if you can give, then give generously. And that is very much what Bob and Janet do. They're not trying to take it to the grave with them. They're trying to give away as much as they can. And so it's so important to be able to invest in the community in ways that are above and beyond cars, like veterans and education, children with disabilities, animals, because they're huge animal lovers. And so the comment that you made earlier about the investment that they make and the impact that has on the community that maybe sometimes people don't see, I just want to thank you for that, because that means so much to me, because that's exactly what it's about. It's not just about selling cars. It's about helping to better our community as a whole.
Well, you're asking what Bob and Janet's legacy will be, and I'll tell you, go buy a good mirror. You're part of their legacy, and so are 126 bachelor degrees, and so are 1,200 employees, and that's the truth. That's the legacy, and every one of those people that I just mentioned are going to tell their children and their grandchildren what Bob and Janet have done for them, and it's more than just leaving something behind. It's a heritage that they're investing in company-wide. And so I agree with you 100%. Memories are short, but the memories of the people that lives were changed, those memories won't be short.
Well, and we're doing everything we can to make sure it all lives on, too.
Well, good. Well, thank you for coming and joining us today. That was a lot of fun. This is one I've been looking forward to, and I appreciate you making the time to come in.
Good. I'm glad I didn't disappoint.
No, of course not. But, one of the things that I do want to point out is that the business philosophy means so much. It's about the people.
Absolutely.
It's not about the cars. It's not about the tires. It's about the people. And I hope that anyone that watches this is able to see that and realize that that's the key to the business. That's the key to what made Bert Ogden grow from, my understanding, one little used dealership to where it is today.
So that, if I can just eat up a little more of your time.
Go ahead.
Because I just think that the story is so beautiful. Mr. Ogden, not many people know this, worked for what is today Hacienda Ford, at the time I believe was called Yoder Motors, selling Cadillac, if I'm not mistaken. and he was a car salesman there.
Right.
And he decided to venture off on his own, and the beginning of this empire was a small little used car lot on Highway 107 across from what was Pan American
Right.
College at the time. And then I could take you into so many other really interesting stories about, we have so many tenured, very long-term, 40-plus year employees. But two of them that tie into this story happen to be my Uncle Bill, who was working for Mr. Ogden as a car salesman, and a gentleman named Mr. Johnson, Carl Johnson, who was formerly a general manager in Edinburgh for us. And Carl would come across the street every day from Pan American College looking at this one car he wanted to buy. And so Bill finally worked on him and got him to come to work here. And that just, was the beginning of their careers. But to think about that, it started there, and then Ralph Ballou Motors on in Edinburgh on Trenton and 281, which now is our Buick GMC store, was a dealership that Mr. Ogden had the opportunity to purchase, and so he scraped together, made the sacrifices, got it purchased. And when I say make the sacrifices, this is a man who drove his own truck to Houston several trips to pick up scrap steel to bring back down here and build his first dealership. So it really is something that has very beautiful, hardworking, humble beginnings, and that's something we don't ever want to forget. We don't ever want to forget where we came from or how much this community has given to the Bert Ogden Group to bless us to grow to the size that we are. And so that's probably one of the biggest reasons, aside from the fact that that's just what the heart is around here, why we want to give back, because this community has just been too good to us.
Well, thanks for sharing that story. I love stories of tough beginnings, because so many of us had tough beginnings. And you can drive by a big stadium that says Bert Ogden Arena and think it's always been like that. But the truth is there's a backstory. And so that's good. We may have to do another podcast just on the backstory of Bert Ogden.
A history podcast, right? Because it is a rich and really exciting history.
Well, we'll plan that. Maybe for next year we can do something like that.
Absolutely.
That'll be a lot of fun.
Love to.
Okay, so let's reconnect next time and learn from other great leaders here in the Mission area. Here at the Greater Mission Chamber of Commerce, we believe that your success is our success. Now we're going to have a word from our sponsors.
We're not a nursing home, and we're not expensive home care. We're Waterford Gardens Assisted Living. You'd love it here. With 24-hour care and help with daily living. That means no housekeeping or cooking. Live easy. For a tour, call Waterford Gardens Assisted Living, 584-1984.
Thank you again to Waterford Gardens Assisted Living for all they do to care for the elderly in our community. And thank you to everyone that's listening to the Commerce Conversation, Business, Community, and Innovation. If you enjoyed today's episode, please subscribe to the podcast on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, and Spotify. Don't forget to follow the Greater Mission Chamber of Commerce online for more updates and content. We look forward to having you join us for our next episode. On behalf of the Greater Mission Chamber of Commerce, we wish you and your family a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. We'll see you all in 2025. This has been Commerce Conversation, Business, Community, and Innovation, hosted by Tim Brown, Rick Brown Family Funeral Home, produced by the Greater Mission Chamber of Commerce, and edited by the Greater Mission Chamber of Commerce. We'll see you in the next episode.